when I'm gonna have some people over, one of the first cuts of meat that I think about, especially when it's grilling season, is a leg of lamb. And I like to cook it butterflied. And it's so easy to butterfly. I'm gonna encourage you to do that. If you're not one of those people that wants to tackle it, then ask the butcher to do it. But let me just show you how easy it is. You get the leg of lamb like this, and you could see this joint up here. That's the cut that you're gonna make straight across there. So I'm gonna put my knife right up here. Of course, you'll need to have a sharp knife to do this, and you'll cut straight down to that. That's the bone that you're gonna follow around. When you get to the back side, of course, then you're gonna have to flip the piece of meat around like that and use your knife to kind of cut around it. And then when you get all the way up underneath there, you can see how that bone is completely freed. Okay, the next thing is to go into this joint here. So just go right in there, and that should allow us then to break that. I'm gonna cut through that to release the bone. And at this point, we've got our boneless leg of lamb, well, except for we've got a lamb shank here, which I'm just gonna cut off. Go straight down, right in line with that spot where we cut the knuckle through right there. The rest of this leg of lamb here is ready to go to the grill, except that I want to make it more even in its thickness. So I'm going to cut right along in here so that I can unroll it like that. I'm gonna have an even thickness. Now, what even thickness means is that this is going to cook evenly, and it's gonna cook fairly quickly. I'll be able to get the whole leg of lamb to medium rare, which is the temperature that I like to do. It won't take very long, and it'll be very, very reliable. To accompany the lamb, I'm gonna make a mojo of fresh green garlic from my garden. I slice the stalk of green garlic very thin, then just warm some olive oil up over medium heat. Put in the sliced garlic, add some salt, and let it just barely simmer for about 20 minutes or so until it's beautifully softened. At that point, I'll add a squeeze of fresh lime juice, some fresh thyme, mine's lemon thyme, and some sliced epazote. Now, if you can't get epazote, feel free to add just a little bit more fresh thyme. Let all of that simmer together for another 10 minutes or so. Well, we're ready to take the next steps on this meal preparation, and Lainey has volunteered to help me with all of that asparagus.
So I'm gonna get started with this. You can either chop off the woody ends of the asparagus, or what I like to do, bend it. You see there's a natural breaking point and pop it right off.
And while she's doing the asparagus, I am going to prepare the butterflied lamb leg by putting just a little bit of green garlic mojo over the top of the lamb. Then sprinkling generous amount of salt over the top as well. And next, a good amount of fresh ground pepper. Next, I will flip it over and do the same to the other side. And I've got the grill hot, so it's time to put on the lamb. Now let me tell you how I've got the grill set up. I've got it kind of medium high, and I'm gonna cook this lamb directly over the fire. I'm gonna start it out with the fat cap on the top. Put it right in there. Now it should take someplace around 30 minutes depending on how hot your fire is. And I'll tell you, if you're not real familiar with cooking meat, an instant read thermometer will be your best friend. I would cook it to about 130 degrees, take it off, and let it sit in a warm place for about 10 minutes or so for it to coast to its final doneness and reabsorb a lot of the moisture. That'll take it up to about 135, which is really the perfect temperature for me. I'm going to close the grill to ensure even cooking. I'll go in and flip it after about 15 minutes.
Now that I've finished snapping off the ends of the asparagus, I'm going to spray them with oil, making sure to turn them so that all of them are coated evenly. Then I'm going to salt them. Now I'm going to take the asparagus over to the grill them for about 5 to 10 minutes until they're crispy and tender, making sure to turn them frequently.
Now I know that grilled asparagus, just with a little squeeze of lime or lemon, would be absolutely delicious. But when you put this pasilla chili crema on it, it makes it like a dish for the most special occasion. So that's what we're going to do today. And you start making this crema by slicing up a white onion, a medium-sized white onion, and then sautéing it. While that is softening and browning, I'm going to chop up 4 cloves of garlic. The onions are nicely browned and softened now, so in goes the garlic. I'm going to stir that for about a minute until the garlic is really fragrant. Half of this mixture is going to go into a small bowl, and then the other half of it I'm going to put into the blender jar. Now I've scraped everything out of this pan. I'm going to give it just a touch more of the olive oil, and we're going to get it ready to crisp up and saute and toast some pasilla chili. So this is the namesake of the dish. And the pasilla chili is one of the dried chilies. It's long and skinny, wrinkled skin, and it's got this deep, resonant flavor that I just love. First thing you have to do is to take the top off of it. Sometimes it's easier to do that with a knife, and then split it down the side so that you can open it up and get all the seeds. I'm going to need 3 chilies done that way. Now I've got the 3 pasilla chilies cleaned. The next step is to cut them into 1/4-inch strips. I'm going to use my knife and just cut right down, but it'll take some pressure. Then the strips of the pasilla chili will go into the warm oil. If we toast them too much, they'll add bitterness to the dish. You'll notice that they'll sort of puff up and lighten in color. When they've all done that, but they haven't sort of released any smoke yet, you'll know that they're ready. About half of them, again, will go into our onion and garlic mixture, and the other half will go into the blender jar. Now the blender jar contains the contents of what's going to become the creamy part of this dressing. I've got some Mexican crema. You know, it's a lot like creme fraiche. You could use just heavy cream for this if you wanted to. I'm going to spoon in about a 1/2 cup of it. To that, I'm going to give just a little splash of water because it's going to need that. About a tablespoon or so. And then a nice sprinkling of salt will go into it. And then I'm going to put the top on it, and I'm going to blend it as smooth as I can get it. Now the other half of this mixture here is going to be kind of like a little compote. I'm going to give it a splash of balsamic vinegar. You could use red wine vinegar if you happen to have that on hand, but I like the sweetness of the balsamic. It's going to need just a tiny bit of salt in it as well. This is going to become like a little compote that gets sprinkled over the grilled asparagus, drizzled with that beautiful crema. I sliced the lamb and shingled those slices around the outside of the platter. Spooned on some of that garlic mojo, and then placed some herby greens in the center. I plated the grilled asparagus, then poured some of that pasilla crema over the top, along with the pasilla chili compote.